Welcome to the Return to Abundance channel. So, what is it? Abundance. If you look it up, Webster's Dictionary or the like, plenty, a large quantity, wealth. Synonyms are boatload, gobs, some of my favorite ones, heap, loads, mass, much, plenty, potful, profusion, ream, scad, slew, stack, wad, truckload. Of course, return would be, to go back or come back. We'll get into that a bit. We'll get into that later some more. So is there a definition, something a little more interesting? How do you get to abundance? It says an old book or an old system, the Book of Changes, and in it there is it's made up of 64 archetypical relationships, and they're made up of phenomenon or elements, so elemental relationships, and there is one that's called abundance, and the elements are fire and thunder or movement. And it reads, Chen is movement, Li is flame whose attribute is clarity. Clarity within, movement without. This produces greatness and abundance. So here we have the flame, or equal to it, and this is rotating. Here we have a graphic of it. You can see the arrows are for rotation, and the plants, you can fire your lights inside. Plants are all facing the center, slowly rotates, and that allows you to water at the bottom. So our elements, there are two, which is known as a binary system. We've all heard of that. Something made of two things or two parts. A number system based only on the numbers 0 and 1. The oldest known binary system is the yin and the yang. Another one that most of us would be familiar with, probably Morse code, dots and dashes. 0, 1 is for the computer. And then I would argue that the optimal relationship, binary relationship, is the 1 is in the center. So your dot is there and your line is the circle. And so the most, well, especially if the dot becomes your fire and the movement is the receptacle of that fire, in this case the light, this image is a plant that's grown, being rotated. This was in the same room, all the same growth parameters, at least equal lighting, if not better, but it was stationary. These are the same seed package, same age, everything's the same. The only difference is this one rode around in the wheel. Here's just another angle on it. You can see much greater size leaves, much tighter internode density, much more plant in the same space. So the movement is critical. So the having the line in a circle gives you that much more area coverage. But the rotation, plants are trying to grow up against gravity. So if your plant's here and it stays here, if a nice young pliable one will make a 90-degree turn in 15 minutes. It's about hydrodynamics. It needs to draw water up. That's how the plants grow. So if you've got your thumb over a straw in a liquid, you can pull that liquid up. But if you rotate that to the side, the suction will be broken and the fluid will run out. So what happens is the plant growth hormones are usually evenly distributed around the stem or drawn to the bottom side of that stem to elongate those cells. That's the mechanics to right itself against gravity. So this rotation is very slow, moving about the same speed as the plant reaction. So that keeps it all facing the center, and it's actually growing in all directions because it's growing up, and up is changing head over heels once a rotation. That's a larger system, larger diameter system that we used to make. We might make them again sometime, but it takes a lot more light. So you have the lights in waves, and your waves get weaker from the center as it expands. So the size is an issue. So here there's a chart showing you what do they call this? Inverse square law. So here's your source, and they would count this. If that was a candle, this would be 1 lumen. But the next foot away from it, it quarters. And then it quarters again and quarters again. So, let's say you started with 100,000 lumens. Here you'd be 20,000, 25,000, about 6,200. A quarter of that, 1,500. A quarter of that, somewhere around 400. So you can see the advantage of wrapping the system around the central light source. Here, this is a flood table that is generally about the same surface growing area as inside the drum. And I've got the 4 lamps in it that are spaced out over that garden, over that area. And you can see, directly under, pretty good growth. In between them, not as good. And then at the end, it falls off a cliff. In between, not so nice. Directly under, pretty good. There's your end. Not terrible, edible. This, however, was grown in the rotation, so you can just see how much different this plant is. Structure, thickness, how much of a meal is going to produce. This is the drum. With the 4 lamps inside. Some happy campers with the lettuce. Stacking it, racking it. That's Iggy. He could be our was that dog, the RCA Victor dog. And something I was just experimenting with at home. He was awfully interested. And here you see, I've only got one lamp, and because it's rotating, it's bringing, you see how much it's illuminating about 3/4 of the wheel, and then this will come around. So the whole thing, it doesn't need 4 lamps actually to grow quite a bit compared to flatland, that's for sure. This came from that. There are 80 plants in here. 80 plants can fit in the system. They're spread out a little bit on the ground. They're a lot more packed in when they're in the drum, but that's the harvest from one drum. You can see that again, the short, bushy stature of the plant. I forget what that is, arugula, I think. Oh, somebody sent that in to me. This is an installation that was in the Middle East. Oh, there's the granting of the plow. Depiction of the granting of the plow to the humans, so a much earlier garden. The first garden. However, this is the last one, the Omega. And, an Omega symbol is, you've got your circle and then there's a line through the bottom of it. And the last letter of the Greek alphabet. And if you look at the end, that's what you're looking at. It is an Omega. Alright, put them on drawer slides for access for that scenario anyway. Well, it's an older garden. We've been at this for a while, making variations. Here's your big lettuce. That's the one that was out on the floor. Might not have been that particular garden. And again, another variation, trying to optimize. In this one, you've got the one feeding tray at the bottom, and each one of these would stay here and rotate. They're all rotating, and then the next one comes down and rotates through the watering tray. Okay, so this is getting into some large commercial activity. So this is an important concept, the circle with the dot in the middle of it, and we'll be looking at it quite a bit more. This is inside what I call the habitat ring. So again, one of these shapes, the dot and the line. The dot, the line. That's inside the line. The line. Many dots with lines. And stacking and racking, these are shipping containers. But again, this is well, that's actually inside the dot. Depends how big your dot is. Here's your dot, here's your line. So, we'll be back with more. Thanks for watching.